St. Paul Island is a remote 42 square mile island in the middle of the Bering Sea and the largest of the 5 Pribilof Islands. It is approximately 300 miles from the mainland and Aleutian Islands. The community is located on a peninsula on the southern tip of the island, adjacent to the harbor. The community on St. Paul Island is incredibly resilient, with residents making their living in one of the world's most extreme inhabited environments. St. Paul Island's economy revolves around the fishing industry, helping meet international demand for various species of Bering sea crab and halibut. The well-being of all St. Paul Island residents depends on keeping St. Paul Harbor in a good state of repair. However, the harbor requires extensive improvements to ensure this. St. Paul Island has a subarctic maritime climate, characterized by persistently overcast skies, high winds, and frequent cyclonic storms. Located in the middle of the Bering Sea, St. Paul Island is exposed to numerous storms of hurricane-force strength, often accompanied by gale-force winds that produce blizzard conditions in the winter. The primary traffic in St. Paul Harbor are commercial fishing vessels. The local fleet targeting halibut operate almost exclusively during summer months. Barges and freighters deliver fuel and supplies to St. Paul Island year-round. Transient vessels call on St. Paul Island for emergencies, supplies, fuel, air transportation, and as a port of refuge. The original harbor construction was funded by the state of Alaska, designed by Norgard, and built by Callista Construction. The original breakwater failed during fall storm right after construction in November 1984. An interim breakwater was designed and built in 1985. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers completed the 1,800-foot-long main breakwater and 970-foot-long detached breakwater in 1989, which provided 8 to 10 acres of harbor space with water depths of 18 to 25 feet. The entrance channel is 300 feet wide. In subsequent years, the Army Corps deepened the entrance channel, which provided a spending beach on the lee side of the detached breakwater, underwater reefs adjacent to the main breakwater, and other improvements. A small boat harbor basin was constructed afterward, which included an inner harbor breakwater. The wave climate is less than ideal under a variety of conditions. Navigation into the harbor is very challenging and dangerous. The entrance channel requires a 90-degree turn, which results in the vessels turning sideways into steep shoaling waves and being in the trough. The original breakwater was designed to withstand a wave height of 16.5 feet for a 50-year storm. However, a reassessment conducted in 2006 noted maximum wave height near the harbor entrance at 27 feet. The breakwater is routinely overtopped by waves, and the harbor master office has been damaged by these events. The North Dock is routinely closed due to adverse wave climate. The long-period waves cause large horizontal motion of moored vessels inside the harbor and have resulted in broken mooring lines. The following video clip vividly illustrates St. Paul Harbor's challenging wave climate. The current inner harbor facilities can only accommodate a fraction of its original design. There is approximately 600 feet of moorage for large vessels in the harbor. In rough weather, there is only room for 1 barge and 2, or possibly 3, vessels. Inadequate mooring infrastructure leads to vessels not being able to moor tightly against the dock. When weather and waves pick up, the vessel will then slam into the dock, causing damage to the vessel and facilities. Due to the limited capacity, there is currently no long-term berthing available to vessels. Due to harbor conditions, barges can only enter and exit during relatively calm seas, less than 5-foot swells. The North Dock approach trestles are in poor condition with heavy rust on all steel members. These are currently used for temporary moorage. However, they were not designed for this function. The South Dock has inadequate bull rails, mooring cleats, bollards, access ladders, and fenders. The timber bull rails are in very poor condition or missing altogether. Currently, all fenders are used truck tires chained to the outside of the dock. This is somewhat commonplace in remote Alaska. However, rubber tires are not engineered to be used in a modern marine fender system. Access ladders are smashed flat from vessel impacts. Mooring cleats are insufficient in number and spacing. Some of the cleats have been torn from the dock or bent. The cleats are also improperly sized and located for medium to larger sized vessels. The smaller vessels' lines tend to pull horizontally and need cleats closer together, while the larger vessels pull from a steeper angle and need cleats spaced further apart. Also missing on the South Dock are mooring bollards to hold vessels, especially larger ones, in rough weather. The presence of the sea ice in the winter and inadequate fenders preclude the vessel from being able to moor tightly against the dock. The result is that the vessel slams against the dock when driven by winds and wave surges. The West Landing is in poor condition. 3 of the 6 dolphins have tires as fenders. The others have no fenders. There is significant rust on the steel dolphins, and the concrete abutment is somewhat dilapidated. The water depths are too shallow for vessel moorage. The current Harbor Master office is positioned across from the South Dock, adjacent to the breakwater. Waves overtopped the breakwater in 2019 and again in 2022, significantly damaging the building. A harbor planning team comprised of local and tribal governments as well as fishing industry stakeholders began meeting in January 2021 to develop the Harbor Improvements and Expansion Project. The purpose was to outline alternatives, options, phases, and costs to renovate, replace, upgrade, and expand the community's harbor to meet current and future needs. A consultant firm was hired to work with the planning team and stakeholders to produce the St. Paul Island Harbor Improvement and Expansion Feasibility Study, published in August 2021. In this study, 3 broad phases were identified for planning and development. Phase 1 is broken down into increments. Phase 1A first improves safety by replacing the tires with modern, energy-absorbing fenders at the South Dock. The fenders reduce impacts of waves and wind on vessels by allowing tight mooring. Adding new cleats and bollards improves safety by creating appropriate means of tightly securing vessels to the dock or dolphins, according to their size. The bollards will allow them to stay in the harbor longer and with reduced accident risk. 5 berthing dolphins will be added, joined together with catwalks for access. The increased moorage availability from additional dolphins will greatly increase safety by allowing vessels to wait at City South Dock for needed repairs or services and provide safety to more vessels during rough weather. Moving the Harbor Master office to the small boat harbor and constructing a 2-story facility significantly improves visibility and reduces the risk of operational impacts from poor weather. Phase 1B proposes the extension and upgrade of water, sewer, and electric utilities to support commercial activity within the St. Paul Small Boat Harbor. This will provide water and sewer service, fire protection, and improved lighting to existing buildings and future development in the small boat harbor. Phase 1C proposes construction of a new harbor road. Phase 1D proposes removal of Old North Dock and city piers, installation of additional dolphin moorage, and building new access piers. These additional dolphins, as described in Phase 1A, will greatly increase moorage availability, safety, and reduce stress and accident probabilities. Dredging will be necessary in newly developed mooring areas. Phase 1E proposes additional dolphins in the West Landing and appropriate dredging for newly developed mooring capacity that these new dolphins provide. Phase 1F proposes additional berthing dolphins on the west side of the small boat harbor breakwater and appropriate dredging for newly developed mooring capacity that these new dolphins provide. Phase 1G proposes extending the tribal dock to the west. Phase 1H proposes extending the tribal dock along the small boat harbor breakwater. Phase 1I proposes providing a barge landing ramp and dock interface between the city and TDX and Trident Dock, and includes dredging in newly developed areas. Phase 2 proposes two options for expanding the breakwater and revising the entrance channel. Additional study on the entrance channel navigation has been requested of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Option A concept includes a new entrance channel approximately 500 feet wide with parallel breakwater jetties that define the channel from the harbor into deep water and a rubble mound extension to the north. The entrance channel breakwater jetties provide both enhanced wave protection and control of the longshore sediment transfer along the existing breakwater that currently results in ongoing maintenance dredging. Maintaining deep water into the inner harbor will reduce shoaling of the waves. Some incident wave energy will be reduced by the side slopes of the jetties. The breakwater to the north provides both enhanced wave protection to the inner harbor and a new moorage basin with space for large vessels 500 feet or more in length. A preliminary wave diffraction analysis was done as part of this project. This shows a large benefit to the inner harbor wave climate. Option B concept is centered on breakwaters further offshore to provide a harbor of refuge for larger vessels. Phase 3 is a mix of eligible projects under the Army Corps and locally sponsored harbor facilities such as berthing dolphins and access ramps. Phase 3A proposes to the Army Corps to relocate the entrance to the Salt Lagoon and to add an energy dissipation beach on the end of the detached breakwater. The dredge material for relocating the entrance channel will be used to create the new upland areas in phases 3B through 3F. Phase 3B, C, D, E, and F propose adding berthing dolphins and approach ramps to newly developed mooring areas around the harbor to increase the mooring capacity and provide safe harbor for vessels during poor weather conditions. Phase 3G outlines the construction of an access road to each of the new mooring areas. Phase 3H supports the addition of a boat ramp and floating dock to the western edge of the Salt Lagoon supported by water and power. The inner harbor facilities are non-federally owned and operated. They include a mix of properties that are city, privately, or tribally owned. Therefore, completion of Phase 1 is the responsibility of the local jurisdictions, property owners, and stakeholders to fund. Phase 2 are eligible products under the Army Corps, since they include general navigation features such as breakwaters, entrance channels, and turning basins. Federal projects developed under the Army Corps typically take years to complete and may involve cost sharing with a local sponsor. Phase 3 is a mix of eligible projects under the Army Corps and locally sponsored harbor facilities such as berthing dolphins and access ramps. Phase 1 is estimated to cost roughly $94 million. Phase 2 is estimated to cost between $170 and $500 million, depending upon which option is elected. Phase 3 is estimated to cost roughly $23 million. The improvements and expansion identified in these three phases will benefit the entire community on St. Paul Island, not only for residents, but also for the current and future fishing industry, tour industry, businesses, and governmental entities that utilize and rely upon a safe, efficient, and reliable harbor. By improving the safety, efficiency, and reliability of moving people and goods through St. Paul Island, this project helps ensure St. Paul Island's continued contribution to the U.S. economy. The long-term positive results of strengthening our harbor infrastructure will ensure a resilient and sustainable future for residents and customers of St. Paul Island.